Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 2. It's late. Do you ever get like strange things for Christmas? These are some of the things that I got last year. I got this hat, which I believe is a squid hat, and I also got this like kind of crazy sweater that I don't know what I don't know what's going on with it, but never really thought I'd get a chance to wear these things, but yeah, today I get my chance. So, anyways, let's see if I can get through a bunch of this material. I'm going to go kind of quickly there's going to be a point where it'll be helpful if you take notes. So, a couple things that I quickly want to touch on before I really get going. Just so you know, when I set like a page limit, whether it's 1 page, 2 page, or 3 page for a minimum. So let's say I say 2 pages. What I mean is that there would be at least one word on page 3, so kind of a complete page. I haven't read all of the for sale assignments yet, but so far in general, I love them. I was having kind of a crappy day yesterday, and a lot of them really made me laugh. I started reading them before I went to bed. So, yeah, of note in there's a cat named Ash, a dog named Messi, um, like Messi, like Ronaldo Messi, a boyfriend, 10-inch bedazzled stilettos, a couch. All of you are trying to sell me several fine cars and automobiles. It's a rocking chair, a one-of-a-kind macaroni art, a rag, and then there was there's a picture of it. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's kind of like a ceramic animal thing that's sort of like a flute. Anyways, I really have been enjoying those. So thank you for kind of lightening my mood. Hopefully, oh, and somebody tried to sell me cigarette butts. So very exciting. As far as essays are concerned, when I say kind of essay and MLA format, I mean everything that you learned or were supposed to learn in your English 122 classes. So an essay ideally wants to have an intro paragraph with a hook, a thesis, supporting paragraphs with topic sentences that relate to the thesis, effective evidence and citations, effective transitions that lead from one paragraph to the next, and work within the paragraph that effectively supports the topic sentence. I posted a kind of an outline of that. So this is for academic writing, academic essays. A conclusion paragraph that functions as a conclusion, effective conclusion paragraphs in academic writing. Rarely, I would say never, but there's always exceptions, right? So rarely bring up a new topic or idea. Their function is more summary than new topics. Again, I posted a recap of elements of effective essays. Also, please, if you can send me messages through Canvas. Sending them through Outlook is okay, but I don't check that email every day. So if you message me through Canvas, I am more likely to see it sooner. Another thing to note, I'm going to try to post everything for an upcoming week beforehand, hence why I am recording this video so late at night, because I want to have it for when you wake up. There will probably be some drop-in assignments midweek, but not that many. The bulk of everything for the week will be up before that week starts or before you wake up on Monday. Also know that if you turn in something before the due date and I grade it, which I sometimes will, and if you don't like your grade, you can correct it and resubmit it as long as it's in before the due date. This can be helpful, especially if you're a little bit unsure about the assignment. I don't always look at things before the due dates, but sometimes I will. And I kind of want to keep track of who is watching the lectures and not. So I'm going to have a code word, and I just want you to kind of put, I'll list it under like code word assignment. So the code phrase for this week is prestige worldwide. So there will be an assignment again that says like code word assignment. And all you have to do in there is just write prestige worldwide. And that lets me know that I am prestigious and that you're watching these lectures. So check for feedback on the assignments. A lot of times I will leave useful feedback, too much feedback, maybe. I have been known sometimes. Rambling thoughts, yeah, sometimes. Casually talking about things that may or may not be related to what you turned in. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I just kind of think of it like we're hanging out. So check the assignments that you submit, and a lot of times there will be feedback. Not always, especially if I get jammed up, then I will just start going through stuff. So this is how I would approach week 2. I would pretty much, I'd pretty much do it from top to bottom. So look at the module, kind of see the top, and I would work my way down. And while I'm working my way down, I might actually read from the books. The one exception I would make personally, and it's totally up to you, I would do the reading before watching the documentaries. I just think for me, watching the documentaries first might make the reading a little bit boring. And I'm going to start trying to talk a little faster because I'm already 6 minutes into this. So here's something to note. Please write this down. One of the chapters of The Harvest Gypsies, that's the reading, one of the readings for this week, it's in your Highway 99 literary anthology. So, and it starts on 34, page 34. The numbers 34 on the PDF numbers, not on the text. So obviously you've already read it, but probably wouldn't know that it was part of The Harvest Gypsies. So consider that story along with the others from The Harvest Gypsies. Again, on the PDF, the page number is 34, and the title is From the Harvest Gypsies. So, and it's a John Steinbeck story. So from this point forward, I'm going to assume that you've read The Red Convertible. That was kind of, if you look at the module, it says read this before watching the lecture. If you haven't, you might want to stop this lecture and come back once you've done reading The Red Convertible. So yeah, if you haven't read it, now might be a good time to stop, go read it, and then come back. So this week we are going to, in part, be working with literary elements. Yes, Roxana, that is a good question. I am glad you asked. Indeed. What are literary elements? Welcome, travelers, to a realm where words become spells and reality blends to the whims of imagination. I thought this was a lot funnier when I wrote it. I imagined myself having this grand acting persona. Let me try it again. Welcome, travelers, to a realm where words become spells and reality blends to the whims of imagination. Explore the mystical tapestry of literary elements where wonders await. Plots twinkle like stars, guiding us through captivating adventures. Settings come alive, transporting us to fantastical realms. Characters emerge as celestial beings, embodying the essence of heroes and villains. Themes whisper eternal truths, resonating within our souls. Embark on this mystical odyssey where imagination reigns and the power of words unlock infinite wonders. Welcome to the realm of literary elements where dreams ignite and magic unfolds. What's that, Clifford? You want me to repeat the whole thing? Sure, I'll repeat the whole thing, except I won't. So, like I said, it was funnier when I wrote it. Literary elements refer to techniques, writing methods, and approaches, right? That's what we mean by techniques, devices, and structures employed by authors to convey meaning and enhance the effectiveness of their writing. They include elements such as plot, characterization, setting, point of view, theme, symbolism, imagery, figurative language, and narrative structure. These elements shape the overall narrative and impact the reader's interpretation and engagement with the text. For example, a well-developed character can evoke empathy and emotional connection, while symbolism can add depth and layers of meaning. Literary elements often work together to create a cohesive and impactful literary work, allowing authors to effectively communicate on multiple levels. So, there is, in one of the, I think it's just a page, it'll say like, you'll have this, it'll say like elements of literature, right? Kind of anchor points. So you have this, and kind of all the definitions that I've given that go with it. So you can kind of read, I'll go through some of this, but you can read it on your own. It's in there. So plot refers to what happens in the story, events and thoughts which make up the story's basic structure. And this is where let me get to that. Almost all plots contain a conflict, may it be internal, person versus self, or external, person versus person, person versus nature, person versus society, or person versus fate. So, in other words, with plot, what is the story about? How do the thoughts, behaviors, and actions of characters move plot forward? What are the conflicts in the plot? Are they physical, intellectual, moral, or emotional? Are they resolved? How are they resolved? So, one of the assignments is to kind of plot, is to go through the elements of literature for the red convertible, which is why I wanted you to read it beforehand, and kind of fill out what they are. So I wrote them down, so I kind of want to guide you through it. Hopefully, and maybe you can find some of your own stuff, but if not, at least we can kind of do this together. So if we're thinking about plot in the red convertible, the red convertible follows a chronological structure, tracing the relationship between Lyman and Henry from their joyous experiences with the red convertible, right, in the beginning, to the challenges they face after Henry's return from the war. The plot's conflict revolve around the emotional distance between the brothers and their attempts to reconnect, right? So that's what we kind of think of the plot as. So fill that out or make notes. Setting refers to the location of a story in terms of place, time, social environment, and physical environment. Where does the story take place? Remember, physical details often inform the emotional state of the characters or the relationships between characters, right? So, settings and physical places can have influence on mindsets, emotions, right? Imagine like you live by the coast or something and you haven't seen the sun in 30 days. It might actually change your mood. So settings influence characters. Are the characters set in a certain social environment? Are they located within a particular society or a particular social class? Does their environment give them freedom, satisfaction, or enjoyment? Or does their environment make them feel trapped, dissatisfied, or unhappy? Are there social forces and institutions that shape the characters in their lives? So in this, think political, social, economic, philosophic, religious, educational, kind of et cetera, et cetera. So the red convertible, right, primarily takes place in rural North Dakota, right, reflecting the brothers' Native American heritage and providing insights into their cultural backgrounds and connections to the land, right? The setting adds depth and context to the narrative. So under the setting form of that sheet that you fill out, you can put something like that. So the story primarily takes place in rural North Dakota, reflecting the brothers' Native American heritage and providing insights into their cultural background and connection to the land. The setting adds depth and context to the narrative. Characters, right? So it's the third thing. Characters are the people or the animals in a story. The term character refers to people's outward appearance and behavior, and also their inner emotional, intellectual, and moral qualities. Most stories have a main character, right? The protagonist, the hero, the heroine, whose personality traits move the plot forward and contribute to conflict. So who is the main character of the story? What is the main character's situation? Where does he or she live? What does the main character do for a living? Is he or she dependent on others for support? God, this stuff is getting warm. What are some characteristics, personality traits of the main character? How are these characteristics revealed in the story? How do the characters interact with each other? What sort of conflict is the character facing? Is it resolved? If so, how? Right? So these are kind of questions that, as you're reading literature, and not all of them are going to you're not going to be like, oh, there's this and this and this. You're not going to go through everything, but once you start kind of finding things that interest you, you'll start seeing pieces of it, right? Do the characters develop? Do they become different? Is the change small or big? So as far as characters in the Red Convertible, right? So you got Lyman and Henry, right? They're pretty realistically characterized. Through their actions, dialogue, and interactions, we learn about their close bonds as brothers. For example, Lyman's narration and description reveal Henry's transformation after returning from the war, highlighting the changes in his characters. And then, on a personal note, you can think are those changes small? Are they large? How did the war change the character? Point of view. Point of view is a perspective from which the story is told. It is through the narrator's perspective, through the narrator's eyes and mind, that readers learn what is happening in the story, right? So I don't want to go through it. So again, you'll see everything that I've kind of said so far, you'll see it in the definitions. So as far as the point of view, I don't want to go through point by point on these, but you can read those on your own. So the point of view, whose point of view is the Red Convertible from, right? So, right, the story is narrated from the first person point of view of Lyman, right? One of the brothers. Lyman's perspective allows readers to intimately experience his thoughts, feelings, and observations. Through his narration, we gain insight into his emotional journey and the interpretation of events. And then are there any other points of view in the story as well that kind of come through? So imagery, right? As a literary device, imagery consists of descriptive language that can function as a way for the reader to better imagine the world of the piece of literature and should add symbolism to the work, right? Imagery draws on the five senses, right? So, namely the details of taste, touch, sight, smell, and sound, right? So, in the Red Convertible, is the imagery dull? Is it vivid, right? For me, I felt it was there's use of vivid imagery to engage the reader's senses and evoke emotions. Descriptions of the car's appearance, right? The landscape and the physical sensations during kind of their travels in the car. For me, it kind of creates a rich visual and sensory experience, right? So the imagery a lot of times helps pull us into the work because it kind of it sparks our senses. So, and once we get more than one sense kind of interacting in a story, it kind of helps transport us there. Symbolism. A symbol is something that represents something else, right? It is an image of an event or a physical object, a person, place, a thing that is used to represent something, often non-physical, such as an idea, a value, or an emotion, right? Authors use symbol to suggest meaning. Like, if I draw a heart, what does that symbolize, right? So, right, it would symbolize love, right? So, what are some of the symbols in the story? I really personally enjoy symbolism. So a lot of times when I'm reading something, that's one of the things that I really gravitate towards looking for. So what's the biggest symbol in the story? I would say it's the car itself, right? So it's this kind of red, flashy car, represents the youthful, vibrant, and exciting relationship between Lyman and Henry, right? kind of before the war, during the war, when Henry and Lyman are separated, the car is left alone. When Henry comes back from the war, a changed man, Lyman tries to rekindle their relationship, but when his efforts fail, he damages the car and in turn symbolically damages their relationship. Henry wants to remain close with his brother and restore his personality. So, right, what does he do? He spends kind of countless hours trying to repair the car. Right, when he does, the boys seem to have a glimmer of hope. At the end, when Henry drowns, right, and is lost forever, Lyman pushes the car into the river to sink with him, right, representing that the connection that they once had is now drowned, dead, or lost forever, right? So, yeah, it uses the relationship of the brothers in the convertible to express the effects of war on close relationships between soldiers and people that care about them that are at home. War often causes changes in soldiers and often leads them to being distanced both physically and mentally from their families, right? So, and then another, I don't know, not as major, but another symbol that I found in the story is the picture that Bonita took of the boys with the red convertible. In it, Lyman's face is clear and happy, while Henry's is hidden by a shadow in the picture, right? So this image foreshadows the events to come and kind of Henry's fading away from his family. Tone, in literature, tone is the attitude or approach that the author takes towards the work's central theme. I would say, so the tone for the red convertible, I'd say it kind of varies throughout the story. It kind of shifts from like nostalgic and somewhat lighthearted in the early scenes to kind of somber and reflective as the narrative progresses. Theme, right? The theme of the story is the underlying message or the big idea. In other words, what critical belief about life is the author trying to convey in their writing? Things like crime doesn't pay, your own worst enemy, coming of age, right? Overcoming the odds, love conquers all. Those are all themes. So I would say the one prominent theme in the red convertible is the impact of war on individuals and their relationships. Through the character of Henry, the story explores the trauma and emotional wounds experienced by veterans and the challenges they often face when reintegrating into society. The theme offers deep insights into human experience related to war and its consequences. So, style in literature is the literary element that describes the ways in which the author uses words. So, so a lot of style boils down to word choice. And again, you'll see the handout. So we can dress a single message in several different literary styles. If I say like, he's passed away, he's sleeping with the fishes, he died, he's gone to meet his maker, he kicked the bucket, right? They all kind of mean the same thing, but connotatively, right, they all have kind of different implications and different style, right? So, what does style tell us about the characters in this story? The style, the writing style, that it feels authentic and somewhat simplistic, not in a bad way, but sort of straightforward. I think kind of captures the character of Lyman and immerses readers in that perspective. Okay, so I got a lot to get through. So again, the code word is prestige worldwide. So write that code word down, prestige worldwide. So there's an assignment this week about filling out some of the points in relation to the red convertible. Along with that, I ask you to write about how understanding those literary elements helped you understand the story better. The response can be casual, meaning I would like thoughtful, responses, but you can say it in your own personal style, right? So The assignment after that asks you to repeat this process, right? Except I won't be here to kind of give you an examples of what to do. So I'm going to ask you to fill out another literary elements page for a story of your choosing from the Highway 99 reading. So take whatever story that you find the most interesting in the Highway 99 reading that we've already read, fill out the literary elements page, and again, write a personal response. So in that way, understanding using literary elements helps us interpret and understand literature on a deeper level. So if we think about an iceberg, like iceberg theory, right? It's called the 1090 rule, right? So 10% of the iceberg is visible above the surface, 90% of the iceberg is down below the surface. A surface level reading and understanding of a story is a lot of times about 10%, right? When you just kind of read the surface of a story. The deeper 90% is what we can see if we learn to go below the surface. Literary elements help us kind of get below the surface and see the deeper meanings of literature and stories. So what's the point? Well, even in our lives, do we like knowing people on a surface level, or do we like knowing people on a deeper level, right? So if we think about like our best friends and people that we're closest with, do we want to know that 10% about them that kind of everybody can see at first glance, or do we actually want to get to know people on a deeper level, right? So I don't necessarily know why, but for some reason, there's something satisfying about the deeper level of relationships and understanding things. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about some more of that later. So that's kind of the first half, in my mind, of the module. So now we switch gears into the second set of assignments for the week. Last week we looked at literature through a feminist literary criticism lens. This week we're going to look at literature through a sociological literary analysis lens. I don't know why they make these terms sound so intimidating, right? So you go like, sociological literary analysis. Sounds easy, right? It's not as bad as it sounds. So if we just first look at sociology to get a framework for sociological, right? Sociology examines a wide range of social phenomenon, including social institutions, right, such as family, education, and government, social inequality, such as that can happen with race, gender, class, other things, social change, social interactions, and the collective behavior. It explores the underlying social forces, norms, and values that shape human behavior and the ways in which society is organized and structured, right? So sociology helps us to develop a critical understanding of social issues and social